This is January 29th,
Mm-hmm.
1986. This is Joe Todd and Gene Miller. An interview with Mr. Lawrence Murray in Perkins, Oklahoma. I guess you consider this Perkins?
Yes,
Iowa Tribal Office?
Iowa Tribal Office,
Yeah. Mr. Murray, where were you born?
I was born right here on the reservation, about 7 miles east of here.
And when's your birthday?
July the 14th, 1927.
1927. Who was your father?
Kerwin Murray.
Kerwin Murray.
Mm-hmm.
And your mother?
Alice Fawfaw. She was Oto.
What was her last name?
Fawfaw. Capital F-A-W, F-A-W.
Okay. Your parents both from Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my mother was born up just north of here, about 47 miles. And my dad was born about the same place I was.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What kind of work did your father do?
Well, he was a farmer, and I guess you'd call the medicine man of the tribe.
Where was the farm that he had?
About 7 miles east of here.
Okay, that's where you were born then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was that his allotment? Or did the Iowans allot their lands?
Yeah, we had a lot. Let's see, I think that whole place over was allotted. They shared it. The Murray family shared it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was their allotment.
When did they allot the lands, the Iowans?
I don't remember. I got the history. I got all the history right here.
Yeah. Okay.
I couldn't.
How big was the farm that you were born on?
Oh, about 80 acres.
80. Mm-hmm. Did you know your grandparents?
Do I have any grandparents?
Did you know your grandparents?
I only knew my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather, Charlie Murray, passed away before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
And Emily Murray was my grandmother.
Did she ever tell you any stories about the early days when she was a little girl?
No. Well, yeah, she told me a lot of stories. I lived with my grandmother. In fact, she raised me. But these kid stories, you know what I mean? Where they hunted and played and fished and how they traveled and how many days trip it took to get to Shawnee or get somewhere else. Back then, I guess it took 3 or 4 days to go and come back.
Mm-hmm.
They went in wagons and took the dogs, and my dad and them would hunt along the way, and what game they got, well, that's what they'd eat, cook, going and coming. They'd have what they call hand games and dances every night. They'd go 3 or 4 wagons at a time. We'd go together.
What kind of, you say hand games? What kind of hand games?
That's just a button, you know, you put in, one button you put in either one of your hands, and somebody guesses which one it is. They do that to, they sing, they got regular songs for it. And drum.
I'd like to get a little history on when the Iowas were brought down to Oklahoma and where they came from.
Well, we came from up around Platte, Nebraska. We're off of the Sioux, the Sioux Nation, and we came down. All of our land, our district or hunting area was around Plattsmouth, Nebraska. And they moved us down here they moved us first to Kansas. And my grandpa and dad and them and some other families didn't like it there in Kansas. So half of them came down here and they settled here. So the government just left them here. Now we got two Iowa tribes. We got one Iowa tribe of Kansas and one of Oklahoma. but we all speak the same language and we're all related. That bunch stay up there, and then we have a chairman up there too.
Is it all considered the same band?
Mm-hmm.
Or the same clan?
We all have several different clans within a tribe. We're all the same.
How many clans in the Iowa tribe?
About 7.
7?
Mm-hmm.
What clan are you a member of?
I'm a Bear Clan.
Bear Clan?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. When will they move from Nebraska down to Kansas?
Well, I see. I think about in the last 1800s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've been here according to records with this lady here. You might know her, Blaine.
Martha Blaine?
Martha Blaine.
Yeah, I know her.
Well, according to her, I think it was in the late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the one compiled all this.
Yeah.
All this here for us.
In fact, she wrote the book on the
Yes, she
Iowa,
did.
didn't she? Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
she's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my grandfather was Chief Nohart. The Iowas.
Now, was he an hereditary chief?
Yeah, but we don't anymore. We don't. The Iowas to this date, right now, we don't have a chief.
You don't.
We all we have is a chairman that's an elected post. But as far as having a chief, we have an old gentleman down in Shawnee says that he's a chief, but we have no record of it.
That's Solomon Kent?
Mm-hmm. There's no record that he's ever been a chief, or even down through his families. The only chief that we found was Nohart, and no, I can't remember the other one, but Nohart was my grandpa.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now you're tribal administrator?
Yes, you call it that. I'm just the chairman. I'm
Okay.
just like the chief.
So you're head of the tribe?
Yeah, I'm the head of the
Okay.
tribe.
Okay. And how many years do you serve in your position?
2 years.
2 years. So it's every 2 years it's elected?
Yeah, I served from 73 until 80, last part of 83. Then I got out. I resigned, and I got back in last July. They put me back in.
Did the Iowas still follow any of the old traditions?
As far as our funerals and things go, yes, we follow them. They're pretty strict on
What do they do with the funeral? What is the old tradition of the funerals?
it. Well, they use smoke. They use cedar, Indian tobacco, and use the food to take kind of like samples from the food and put it on underneath the coffin. And when they bury them, they put it in the grave, and believing that the spirit will use this food on its way to Happy Hunting Ground where it's going. And they bury them facing east. They usually want us to hand dig the grave, but here lately they haven't. They haven't been doing that. And I guess the last funeral they used a backhoe to dig it.
Is there a ceremony when they name the children?
Oh yeah, when they have when they gave me my Indian name. They have a feast in a Native American church. That's the peyote. Have a peyote meeting, and that's what my dad was the leader of here. And they have a feast the next day, but real early in the morning before the sun comes up is when they give the baby the name.
How do they choose the name?
They choose the name from my grandmother named me. It depends on who. Well, they all choose the same way, from what I understand, is what they see, is what they look at.
Okay. What is your Indian name?
Todd. It's, my grandmother's, she's seen the Seven Sisters of Stars, they, you know, they have up, she's seen that and a small deer. And that was where my name come from.
And what does your name translate?
It's a little deer.
Little Bear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does it have the 7 sisters in there too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that all means that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now you say your father your father was a medicine man.
Mm-hmm.
Did he use any Indian medicines?
Oh yeah.
Do you ever help him with any of it?
Yeah, I've helped.
What are some of the medicines that he used or did?
But I went with him several times on several occasions to dig it and to cut it. It's tree barks and roots of I don't even know the name of them. I see it out here once in a while. It's orange flower. The roots of that, and they have this this mandrake. You know that the root is the shape of a person. It's either male or female. You can tell that he used that.
What was that used for?
I wouldn't know. He never did tell me. I was supposed to take his place, but he passed away while I was a missionary in South America.
Mm-hmm.
I lived down there for 19 years, and so when he passed away, well, I didn't get any of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it went to my oldest brother, and my oldest brother passed away, and that's where it died right there. Nobody would never take it anymore.
Hmm. So it was not practiced anymore then.
No, we have a few around here. We have some that knows how, and they're very careful with it. They don't tell anybody about it. And the last one that we had do things like that was my Uncle Franklin Murray.
Mm-hmm.
And he passed on here about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a Aunt Kate. Maybe you'd be interested in going down to her house.
Yeah.
She lives, I guess it's 2 miles, right on this road, right straight down.
Mm-hmm.
And her name is Kate Lincoln. Now she can really give you the history because she's the oldest of my families. So she knows.
Yeah.
She knows the whole thing, and she's healthy. She talks good.
Hmm.
She hears good. And
You think she'd agree to talk to us?
I think so.
Okay.
My cousin will be down there, Mary,
Mm-hmm.
and you could go down, and I'm pretty sure Mary would.
Yeah. We can't do it today, but maybe tomorrow morning.
That'd be fine.
Come back. Yeah. Okay.
That'd be fine. I think you could get a lot more history from her from just right around, well, you know, from living here
Uh-huh.
and from where they come from.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we're looking for.
Well, I think she would be, and I'm pretty sure she'd be very happy to do it.
Good. As a small boy, what chores did you do in the farm? As a small boy.
Yeah, milked the cows, fed the pigs, gathered eggs from the chickens. Hunted. I guess that's the only meat we had was what I killed.
Mm-hmm.
But that was just about it. We had hogs and cows and chickens and horses.
Mm-hmm. Do any plowing?
Oh yeah, I plowed and I cultivated.
Use a walking plow or a
Run
riding
walking plow, walking cultivator.
How many acres could you plow in one day?
Oh, I met my brother and I, him driving, we plowed a good half acre, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just one
Yeah.
one plow.
Did you have horses or mules?
We had horses.
Mm-hmm. Do you prefer horses over mules, or
Huh?
do you prefer horses over mules? Or?
Yeah, I did then. But now I wouldn't. When I went to Mexico, I used mules up the mountains, and they're more sure-footed than the horse is up the mountains down there. So I used them for my pack animals, and I rode one. Went all over the mountains and down Mexico, and then went on down into Peru.
What part of Mexico?
I have a home down there in the state of Tamaulipas, down close to Victoria, about 325 miles south of the border there.
Where did you start school?
I started the school at a little place over here we called Buzzard Roost. That was my first. I went to school there about a year, I guess, and then they transferred me from there, and they took me to Pawnee Indian School.
Now, was Buzzard Roost a public school?
Mm-hmm.
And where's the Pawnee School?
Pawnee Indian School's up at Pawnee.
Okay.
And I graduated from there. Well, then I went to Chilocco, and from Chilocco into service.
How many years did you attend Pawnee?
8 years.
8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Was it for girls and boys?
Mm-hmm.
How many kids were there at the school?
Oh, we had a couple hundred.
How big were the dormitories?
How what?
How big were the dormitories that you lived in?
When I stayed in, held 26 of us was in there. We had two-story dormitories full. And we had two-story girls' buildings that was full. Then we had the faculty houses.
Did you have your own room, or was it an open bay?
No, it's just a great big long room with a bunch of cots in it.
What else did you? Where'd you keep your clothes?
It's like the army in a locker,
Yeah.
in a foot locker,
Okay.
a little wooden box.
And the girls' dormitory was the same way?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you take your meals?
We had one big dormitory. I mean, one big dining hall. They served. I was back during the Depression. I think they served cornmeal gravy and biscuits. That's about what we had to eat all the time. Or water gravy. That's what we. You ask anybody about Gravy University, they'll tell you where it's at, Pawnee.
What were your chores there at the school?
I worked in a dairy barn. The school paid me 3 cents a day to work in a dairy barn, and they paid me every Christmas.
3 cents a day?
But I got, around Christmas, I'd get around 75 or 80 cents, and that was, I could use it. But back then, that was quite a bit of money.
Yeah. What year did you begin at the Pawnee School?
Yeah, let's see, 27, about 30, 8, I was about 6 years old, I guess.
About 32, 33? What classes did you study? What were your courses there at the school?
Just regular, general, I guess, reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's all we had. We didn't have any algebra or anything. In fact, we never heard of it.
Did you have to wear a uniform?
Yeah, we wore red shirts and blue denim trousers and whatever we could find to put on our feet. Most of our clothes were big on us. Rollers looked like donuts around our wrists and our ankles.
Now the regimentation, was it talked to one lady, and at Haskell it was like a military system?
That's the same way it was at Pawnee. All of them are. Even at Chilocco, it's the same thing.
Now, was there a military man there at the school?
No. No, there was a man they called Chilocco.
What was his position?
He was a superintendent.
What kind of person was he?
He was a pretty nice person.
His last name is Chilocco?
Mm-hmm.
This is one from Oklahoma City, is it?
No,
Von Chilocco?
no, his Schultz, the one I'm talking about, he's up here, he's the chief of the Call tribe now.
Okay,
I was gonna
okay.
ask if he was Osage or,
Yeah.
Uh-huh,
I knew that the Chilocco's were Cherokee and.
Yeah,
you know,
he's
the
called.
Osage. Oh,
uh-huh.
no, that's news to me too.
Now, it was a military system. How were you, how large of a group were you in? Like, did you have inspections each morning, or?
Yeah, we fell out of, we got up about 4:30, all the dairy boys. And we fell out in ranks just like Army. And we marched to the dairy barn. And we did our tours and cleaned up and everything, got back out and come to breakfast. Then we'd line up and march to school. Then after class was over with, we'd line up and march to the chow hall. It was just like military all the way.
Oh, you had classes before breakfast then?
No, we had classes after breakfast,
Oh.
but to go to classes, we didn't just go to classes. We all had to line up, fall out in front of the dormitories and march down there. And then when school was over with, at lunch and in the evening, we'd go fall out and march back to the dormitories again.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 6, I'll say around 5 o'clock, well, the dairy boys had to fall out in ranks again and go to the dairy barn and milk again. And we done our milking, all the milking by hand. Some of the boys worked in laundries with the girls, some girls worked in laundry. Boys worked in a bake shop and I guess the horse barn and took care of the cows. We made insulage and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We chopped it up and put it in the big old trench silos. You know, they dug holes in the ground. We put all the insulage in there, and then we'd have to go get it out to feed the dairy cows.
Yeah. What were your social activities at school?
Really didn't have any. We had football and I think we had Friday. Friday was Boys Town Day. In the evening after school, and after we got our chores done, we could go to town. But Saturday, every other Saturday, the boys would have town day and the girls would have town day. But the working boys in the evening after, like on Friday night, we got to the dairy. Well, we could go to town Friday evening.
Mm-hmm.
And go to the movie or sit around in the park at the Pony. Or go down the creek and take rocks and throw out the colored people's houses up on the banks. And that's about what we did. The most fun of everything.
Mm-hmm. The lady you talked to from Haskell said that they would have a dress parade once a week.
Yeah, we had to, Haskell was different from Chilocco. They had the same thing in both places, I guess, but at Pony School, well, all we had to do is once a week we had to lay out our clothes and things, just like a general inspection in the Army.
Mm-hmm. They
kept track of, if you had somebody else's clothes in your file, well, you got punished for it.
Yeah.
We all had our own markings and stuff.
If you got a demerit, what did you have to do?
Well, you run through the belt line, one thing, then you had to wash dishes after you did the rest of your chores.
Have to run to the belt line?
Mm-hmm. They pulled, all the boys would line up with their belts and you had to run between them and every one of them get a swing out.
Oh, severe.
What year did you leave there?
I guess I left her at, I was 27, 32, I had 8. I left her around 37, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, 37, 38.
You need someone here to see you?
No, that's my vice chairman there.
Oh.
I'm getting ready to send him to Washington, I think that's what it is.
Did you know Pawnee Bill?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of man was he?
Well, he was good to his kids. We'd go up to, in fact, we played with his little boy. And I guess I was at Pawnee School, or just left Pawnee School, when his little boy hung himself, or accidentally hung himself.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't commit suicide. He was playing, you know, and they had them old wells with them ropes, you know, how they used to pull water up out of the well. One of them, and he tied it around his neck and jumped off of the well. Which when he'd do that, well, that bucket would come up and he'd get pulled, and he tied it too short or something. He jumped off and he couldn't touch the ground. So,
Hmm. And from there you went to Chilocco.
mm-hmm.
Did you have a commencement exercise at the Pawnee School?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been so long ago, I don't remember, but I think we all dressed, I think we had suit coats or something during that time, suit coats and ties.
Who gave the speech at your commencement?
A fellow by the name of, well, shoot. He was in charge of, he was in charge of the Indian Agency back then, and I can't remember his name.
He's here at the BIA?
No, he was head of the agency here
Oh, okay.
around Shawnee.
Mm-hmm.
Shawnee used to be the whole area deal.
Okay, so you went through, what, the 8th grade at Pawnee?
Mm-hmm.
And then through high school at Chilocco?
I started through high school, Chilocco,
Mm-hmm.
and I went into service. Then when I came back from service, and I got discharged in 46. Well, I went back and finished at Chilocco.
How did Chilocco compare to Pawnee?
It was real good. We had more freedom, better food. I got to play football and had better food. And had a better campus, better dormitories, more kids.
Do you have your own room there?
There was 2 of us in the room, 2 to 3 in the room.
Yeah. How was that room furnished?
Furnished real nice, bunk beds, sheets, pillowcases.
Was that paid for by the federal government,
Mhm.
Chilocco? What about Pawnee? Was it also federal?
Yeah, that's a federal
Okay.
school.
Now, is Pawnee still going?
No, they closed Pawnee, I guess 35 years ago.
Yeah,
40
so
years.
both of them are closed now, because they
Yeah.
just closed Chilocco here a few years ago.
Yeah.
Did you join that Charlie company out of Chilocco when they organized?
Mm-mm. No, I went to the Airborne.
Okay.
I went to the 82nd Airborne Division.
Mm-hmm. What year did you join?
I went in, I guess it was the last part of, I went in September of 42.
When did you go to basic?
I went to jump school at Fort Benning, Georgia.
Mm-hmm. What was that like, jump school?
Like, it was rough, I guess, because Airborne at that time was all volunteer. I think it's still volunteer, but they didn't want you if you couldn't take it. And they tried to run you off. I mean, they really made it rough. We went from 4 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night every day for 16 weeks.
16 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
How many jumps did you make in jump school?
I had to make 7 to qualify. 2 night jumps and 4 day jumps.
Make all of them okay?
Huh? Yeah. Yeah, I made them all okay.
Now, did you have a basic before jump school, or was that your basic?
That was it. Went through basic and then went right on into jump school. That was
Everything was at Fort Benning then?
Uh-huh.
Okay. From Fort Benning, where'd you go?
Went to Europe.
What about the trip over? Anything happen?
No,
Did you leave from New York City?
New Jersey somewhere, I think it was.
Did you pass Statue of Liberty going out?
No, I seen it coming in. I don't remember seeing it going out.
Where'd you land in Europe?
Where in the world? Well, at that time, I think that was the first Camp Lucky Strike. I know there was another Lucky Strike there, but I think that was the first one that
And where was that located?
somewhere close to somewhere there in India, over in
Leland. And
I think I knew Earl.
over the Boxer, Golden Globe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think everybody went to Chilocco was boxers.
Right.
That was the boxing school. I went through there. Fought the Golden Gloves and everything else. These are my stories. That's what I read most of the time.
Oh yeah.
So we're fortunate.
Were you in the D-Day?
In D-Day in Normandy?
Yeah.
There was no parachute jump made during that time.
There wasn't.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, we were held in reserve. I hear a lot of people talking about, well, I hear some guys say that they jumped there, but if they did, I don't know where they jumped. The 101st and 82nd, 17th Brigade and all those, we were held back in reserve, and we jumped after that. We jumped inland after that.
Where did you jump?
And then we jumped France, so we jumped out of them C-82s, not C-82s, C-47s.
Where did you jump? What part of France?
I was outside of France. That was in 44. Jim Gavin was my CO, my division commander. And we left out of there. We went to Algiers, stayed out of Algiers, jumped to Africa and Belgium.
What did you do in France while you were there after you jumped? What happened?
Just regular occupation.
Was the fighting pretty well?
Yeah, no, we made a combat jump there.
Okay. Were you involved in any of the hedgerow fighting in France?
Mm-hmm.
What is hedgerow fighting? What is that?
Well, all it is a lot of it, some of it was hand to hand. We hunted, just hunt and kill from one place to the other.
Now,
So it was hedgerow. I mean, you go from one hedgerow to the other, like they have around some of these little houses in town, but them, they were 8-10 feet high.
how far apart were those hedgerows?
Well, some of them were pretty close, depending on where you was at and what location you was in, what was planted and stuff like that. But,
And how long were you in France?
about 3 months, I think,
3
about
months.
90 days.
And how long of a distance did you cover? How far?
How far did we travel? I couldn't tell you how far what we took, our job was to jump in where people were having problems and help them out of it, and then we usually regrouped, went back, and then the British Airborne come in, we were with them.
Were they as good as the 82nd? The British?
They're pretty tough boys.
Mm-hmm.
In Australia, we got a lot of respect for those guys.
Did the Germans put up much resistance?
Yeah, boy, the Germans was something else. When we first contacted the Germans, they were pretty strong and had a lot of good men, but at the end, they were just nothing but kids and old men coming in.
What were your first thoughts when you're going into your first combat jump? What were you thinking?
I'll guarantee you, I just wondered what I was doing there. I mean, this is about the same thought when I made my first parachute jump. I'd never been in an airplane before in my life, or nothing. And we was getting up, just taking off over the Chattahoochee River there at Benny. I couldn't figure out what, I just thought to myself, what the hell am I doing in this thing anyway? But, the first jump was the easiest. It got a little harder and a little harder. And I don't know, I heard guys say, well, you get used to it after a while. I never did. I got 413. I never did get used to it. You always get, even, I did some skydiving, but every time you get ready to get out, you get a little, nervous.
And you say you went from France to North Africa?
Mm-hmm.
Why were you sent to North Africa?
We went down there. Well, we jumped there. We stayed. I guess we lived about 60 days out there outside Algiers on that little desert. And I think they left us there just to get us mad enough to go in that we wanted to go. And we did. I'll tell you, that was a place but nobody there but us. There was no women, nothing. But them little kangaroo mice, we'd catch them and we'd race them. And we'd do everything.
Any reason why they sent you there? Or?
Well, we'd done a lot of training there, hand-to-hand combat training and all that kind of stuff.
Because the war in North Africa was basically over, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
Because Rama had been pretty well.
He was pretty well beat up. The British pretty well took care of him.
From North Africa, where'd you go?
I think we left France before I went to North Africa. I think we went into Belgium. I'd have to look at my book. I got a book with everything in it.
Were you involved in the Battle of the Bulge?
No. No, the 101st was they went into the Bulge.
Mm-hmm. What part of Belgium did you go into?
Well, we started going to the northern part. They changed the plan because they showed aerial photographs of gliders and tanks and things waiting. And after we got in there, we found out that there was dummies. They were just mock-up things they made out of pasteboard boxes and things.
Were they doing that to intimidate you?
Yeah. Yeah, we went on to a lot of that over there. The reconnaissance planes bring photos back, night pictures, and you go over daytime and try to find them. We done a lot of recon work. It flies about 25, 30 minutes at night and jump us out and find out what's there, and we'd have to walk all the way back. And sometimes that's 30, 40 miles we get back in there.
The Germans pretty well entrenched in Belgium at that time.
Oh yeah.
Ever have any trouble getting back to the American lines?
Several times nearly all the time we never 100%. Sometimes 40, 50% get back. That's about it.
How many would they send out?
We'd go out with maybe 25 strong, a good recon company, and we'd split up.
Only half to get back?
Yeah. A lot of time when we make a push and go back through there where we made a reconnaissance, well, we'd find some of our boys. Germans caught them, tortured them.
You ever have any close calls there?
No, not really. I stayed hid all during the day and traveled at night. family. I ran onto a patrol one time, the one in the house, and the family was there, and I didn't know if they was going to turn me in or what they was going to do, but they put me up in the chimney. The patrol went on through. They came in, got a bottle of wine and some bread and stuff from the family, and nobody said anything. I guess that was about the closest I was ever come to getting caught.
What was the purpose of this, to dropping you all behind the lines?
Find out what they had, supplies and things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we find a lot of mock-ups, and we'd have to go in to see what it really was, see if it was the real thing or not. And usually if it was the real thing, we was in trouble, but if it wasn't, we didn't have any trouble.
Mm-hmm. And was this a voluntary mission, or were you?
All volunteer, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you volunteer for it?
Well, I guess that's what I went over there for.
Mm-hmm. And how did the Belgian people react to you all?
Real good. They were really good to us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of them just they stuck their neck out to do things for us.
Yeah.
And
I just spent 2 weeks over there with the Army Reserve.
yeah.
And met some good people over there in Belgium. A lot of them still remember.
What was you at over in the reserve?
I just spent time in Brussels.
In Brussels?
Yeah.
You went to the big place.
Mm-hmm. Then we had people there in Mons and Bruges, Brent, Antwerp. We had them all over. Then I also went down to Germany. When did you cross into Germany?
I don't know if it was December. I don't know. It was colder than hell. I don't remember when. Really don't.
Was it from Belgium into Germany?
Mm-hmm.
Did you go through Aachen?
Yeah. See, what was that line at? We had the Siegfried.
Yeah, the Dragon's Teeth, the Siegfried line. Yeah.
Uh-huh. That I remember going through that. It was cold. Had them cement. Looked like
Yeah.
little pyramids.
Yeah, the Dragon's Teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Was that very effective at all? The Siegfried
God, it
line?
didn't stop any of us. Of course, we were, foot soldiers. And tanks knocked a pass through there, and they went on.
Mm-hmm. What was the reaction of the German people to you all?
Well, they felt like we did. I think they were kind of relieved that we could see the pressure letting up on our recons and things. We could see a lot of things that that we knew the Germans was whipped, and a lot of them knew it, and a lot of the women and children they were pretty good. We couldn't trust them. Some of the women, like in France, they put a grenade in under her blouse or in between her legs and walk up to a bunch of GIs and release it and take off. So we got where we'd see one of them coming, we'd have to shoot her just like anybody else, because things like that I think it was harder than anything else knowing. Of course, back then, I guess we had more respect for women and children than they do now. It doesn't even make any difference anymore.
Yeah, I spent 18 months in Vietnam. Where were you on VE Day?
On VE Day?
When the Germans surrendered.
I think I was on R&R in Paris. I know, I'd say VE Day we were in the wine cellar someplace.
How far into Germany did you get?
I got all the way to I don't know, I think we got about, I think we walked about 80 miles in there. There was no jump into Germany either. Not that I know of. I mean, we didn't. We walked in. There rode trucks and rode tanks and stuff like that.
When did you cross the Rhine?
The Rhine River?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You got my dates. I know. I remember the Seine. You know where that's in Paris.
Yeah.
The Rhine and the Channel. I don't know if we jumped the Channel in August or in the fall. I remember when Ike came down and talked to us when we was getting ready to jump it. General Eisenhower.
Was that before D-Day?
Mm-hmm.
Was that in June 44? Because
In
D-Day was
summer,
June
yeah.
6th. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was, oh, I got a book that I've been collecting. I ordered the history out of this thing here, and I got all that back home, and I just lay there and some nights just go through it.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do on VE Day in Paris?
What did I do?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I remember what had happened. I don't remember what all I did. And we had, during that time, we had a lot of problems with, the Indian boy had a lot of problems with black boys over saying they were Indians, you know.
Night fighters.
The night fighters, and I think we jumped bunched them off that Seine River Bridge. I believe that's about all we did after when the war was over. We started hunting them guys.
Mm-hmm. So when did you come back to the States?
I got back to the States and the war was over in 45. I got back to the States, I think, in 45.
Were they preparing to ship you to the Pacific?
We went to Okinawa.
Did?
Mm-hmm. They had 4 companies of us. That's almost a battalion. First we went to we went into China. We liberated a concentration camp in China. That was one of our, went into CBI. We stayed there, just out of Shanghai. We stayed there at the Huangpu River. Tsingtao, we went into Tsingtao. There was a Japanese concentration camp there.
Now how did you go to China? Did you fly across China?
We flew. We flew in from, see, that was during the operation at Okinawa. And they just taken us airstrip. They flew 2 plane loads of us. Across the sea, we went across the Yellow Sea. But they flew us in, they jumped us in, and we came down the Huangpu River on gunboats.
Mm-hmm.
They picked us up in gunboats, and we brought prisoners out with us, and some missionaries that were in there, we brought some of them out. We lost a gunboat coming down the Huangpu River, and we had to gather up all the people off of there and put them on the other one. We got down to to Shanghai, and there was we went out to sea, out to the Yangtze River, and there was a big battle cruiser waiting on the survivors of our people. And we went from there, we went on back to Okinawa, and then we stayed at Okinawa, but the island it wasn't secure then, but it was about secure. We stayed at Okinawa, and we were waiting, the 11th Airborne was in there.
Mm-hmm.
So they attached us to the 11th Airborne. We were getting ready to jump into Japan.
Now you said there was a concentration camp near Shanghai?
Well, it's about 80 miles up. It wasn't on the coast. It was about 80 miles out of Shanghai. I don't know. I'd have to look at the China map to find
What prisoners were there?
There was British and Australian American and all kind of, they all had some
You had trouble
Chinese.
liberating it?
No, they were just about like the Germans at that time when we jumped in there. We just went through them all we were worried about was the guards, and there was about 2 companies of them, so it didn't take much to.
What was the reaction of the prisoners when you liberated them?
They didn't. Well, just like you, there in Belgium, they just couldn't believe we were there, and we took Japanese trucks and moved them. We left them gathered. The only people we took and got on the gunboats was our own wounded, and we lost about 6 or 7 men, I think, but we took them back. We slept in a warehouse down on the river until the gunboats come pick us up. Then we went on a battle cruiser 1. And we went down. They put us way down the bottom of that thing, and they fed us. Them Navy guys had it made. Boy, they had hot food all the time. They fed us steak and eggs. That's the first fresh egg I had in I don't know how long.
What'd you do in Okinawa?
Well, we didn't do much. We laid around and trained as always and cleaned our weapons. All the guys that wasn't married, I think we volunteered to go ahead and stay there. That's when that point system came out. So, you had so many points if you was married and combat days and things like that. You had to have 80 points to come back to the States, and most of the single guys just let the married guys come home.
Now, how do you get a point?
Well, combat days, combat time, and married.
1 point for each day or what?
I don't know how they count. I think it was for a month. I know I had 87 points, but I spent all the time I was in service over there most of the time, over in Germany, and I went over, and we got a point for that operation there at Tsingtao, China. But I didn't come home, but we waited, and then when the war was over with, well, we had to wait again for some more airplanes. I think we lost about 7 airplanes right there in Okinawa. Guys drunk, shooting. We had Thompson machine guns shooting up everything and blew some of them planes up. I think we had more casualties there that night when the war in Japan was over with than they had if we'd jumped over.
Right. What was your reaction to the bomb on Hiroshima?
My reaction? Well, then all I was thinking was is to kill the enemy, and it didn't make me any difference. I just soon as that bomb wiped the whole island off. I mean, that was my attitude. I guess, you know yourself, you stay in combat so long, you just don't care, you just get work.
That's right. And you came back to the States. What did you do on VJ Day when they were shooting up the airplanes?
I was with them, shooting up and drinking Raisin Jack and torpedo juice. 190 proof alcohol they used to put in them torpedoes,
Yeah.
We'd drain that out and cut it with pineapple juice.
And when did you come back to the States?
I was back in the States. I think I got discharged in October, November. I got discharged out of Fort Sill.
And you went back to Chilocco?
I went back to Chilocco and finished high school. I came back and went to school at Oklahoma Aggies at that time as A&M.
What did you study?
Well, I wanted to be a veterinarian, I thought. And I only stayed there a year. So.
And you said you became a missionary.
I stayed there a year, and I came home, wandered around, and lived down here on the reservation. But didn't do much. Went to Oklahoma City and started drinking. I just didn't have anything to do. I just found myself needing help, so they took me and they helped me. I got sobered up and I got married. started going to church and doing something for myself, and finally a missionary from Peru came up and asked me, what kind of work I did. Of course, I was a welder. I learned welding when I was in Chilocco. I'd do something in auto mechanics, and besides study, I'd weld a little bit, and I told him. He said, well, I'm taking a group of people from the States, and we're going into Paraguay. And he said, I'd like you to go, we need to do some building down there.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him, yeah, and then that time, the mother of my kids, I got 7 kids. But she passed away, and I took the 2 youngest ones with me, and the older one stayed here. So I took the 2 youngest, me and the 2 youngest ones went to Paraguay. We landed in Asunción, Paraguay. I don't even remember the dates on that. We went to, we flew from Brownsville, Texas. We flew into the Air Force Base. We were forced to land at the Air Force Base at the Panama Canal. And they took us in there. We ate, then they fixed our plane, and we went on to Santiago, Chile.
Mm-hmm.
And from Chile, we went across the Andes. We had to go through that saddle, our plane was so old, we couldn't go over them.
Yeah.
That's what we had to go through them. The Andes Mountains. Well, I tell you, that was something. I think that was worse than combat. Boy, I mean, going through that mountain, you could just block these walls straight up. You couldn't see the top of them, you couldn't see the bottom of them. And all of a sudden, that old plane would just start dropping, and it'd pick up the pockets of wind in it.
What were your main duties down there in Chile and Paraguay? What did you do?
Well, I pioneered missions, what we call pioneered missions. We went in and to see if the people were acceptable. We worked with headhunters. The Moro Indians we tracked them down. Finally caught a bunch of them. They live everywhere. They just take a bunch of leaves and make a hut for a night. Next morning they're gone again. And that's just the way they're. Just nomads. They didn't stay in one place.
Mm-hmm.
And
Did you ever work? Oh, I'm sorry.
in Paraguay, see, went to Asunción, and we left Asunción. We went up the Paraguayan River, about 400 miles up the river. We started an outpost out there at Del Sol, right on the river. And we work over in Brazil, and then we work over in Paraguay and Brazil, and then we went on up into the Amazon River and worked up in there. We finally found a group of these headhunters. Lived with them. And, they were good people. We found out that it's only a ritual that when one of the young men was going to come into manhood, well, he had to go get a head from the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where they get the head hunting. They're people just like anybody else, but they got their ways and their religions and things, and they follow them very strictly. So we found out, living with them, we found out we were scared. We thought, we didn't go in there to fight them. In fact, we didn't take any arms at all. All we had was machetes to cut our way through the jungle and stuff. And our Bibles with us. And so we lived with them and started schools and things, and I moved back into Lima, Peru, and I lived in a town, and I lived in Lima. I lived there 6 months. Then went back down to Santiago, Chile, and I lived there 2 years. And after I left Paraguay, well, then I came back into old Mexico. And I went down to Guatemala and helped start some churches there.
Mm-hmm. You said you used mules in the mountains in Mexico.
Mm-hmm. And Peru too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Peru, they had a lot of those llamas.
Yeah, llamas.
Llamas.
Yeah.
they work their mules stubborn, boy, I tell you. If you put 1 ounce too much weight on them and they know it, they won't move. You take some of it off and they're all right. And then thank God it.
What part of Mexico were you in?
Well, I worked in the foothills of Sierra Madre right there at Victoria. That whole range in through there. Then I went down to the state of Nayarit down and worked in the Sierra Madres down there. That bunch that came in from California, that string of mountains that goes down.
Yeah.
Well, that's the bottom of them down there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked down there with the Corey Indians. They lived up in the mountains, I guess, about 7,000 feet. They didn't accept the Mexican government. The Mexican government didn't accept them. They still don't.
What group of the Indians?
Cora.
Cora.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to go up there. We had a mall, a little airplane they call a mall. You probably heard of them. They're brush planes.
Yeah.
So we flew that up in there.
Now, when are you using the mules down there in Mexico?
I'll use the mules in the outside of Victoria. Going up into we'd take clothes, we'd take pack mules and take clothes and groceries and Bibles, and we'd just pack our mules and start.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know where we were going, but it was all uphill in the mountains. We'd get over one ridge where there was 2 or 3 more, and they're all full of villages. So we'd go up there. It'd take me around 2 days to get to the first village. And all we'd do in camp would take jerky and tortillas. And that's what we ate on the trail.
Were you accepted by the people?
Oh yeah. The other people were real good up there. I learned to speak Spanish when I was down there. And I got on real good with all the people. I got a call from Captain Hicks. He's a mercenary, and asked me to go with him down to Guatemala. I don't know where he found out I knew those people, but I didn't go. He took a bunch down there. Some of the men from Shawnee went. Well, what's called went down there too. Bob
McKinney?
Mm-hmm. Robert McKinney. Yeah, they come.
What are they doing down there?
I don't know what Bob did. I don't even know if he got in down there. But I could, the reason they wanted me to go is because they knew I could get in.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew all the border crossings and everything. My name's down there, and down there as a church worker. But I didn't want to use that to go in and do something else, I mean, that, to me, that's just not right.
I heard something very unfavorable about the trip Bob went on.
Yeah.
So, yes, so
Yeah, I got letters. In fact, I get them quite often from Captain Hicks. He's still wanting me to go, and they want to pay me and everything, and I got enough of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So which area do you like best down there? South America, Mexico, Guatemala?
Well, if I had my choices, I'd live in Santiago, Chile.
Mm-hmm. Why?
The climate is a whole lot better. You know when it's going to rain, you know when, it's just like clockwork. Everything just, around 4:30 in the evening, or if you're going out, just take your umbrella because it's going to rain for 10 or 15 minutes. And then after that, nights are warm, mornings are real cool. I knew the governor down there, and he was a very nice man. I stayed down around there, and he had a beach house. He let me live in that for about 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a lot of good friends in South America. I hate the way things is going down there. If I go down, I'd have to help them, and I don't wanna, that's politics I can't get into.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd be branded as a mercenary if I didn't go down and help them, and that'd be the same thing.
Are any of the descendants of the Incas still down there?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any contact with them?
Yeah, we worked, we went 3 days up to the, to Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
And I met some of the Incas there. There's also a small group of supposed to be Incas right between Guatemala and Honduras. And there's mountains in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a group said they were Incas. And I ran into the Incas in Ecuador. I don't know which ones are the original.
Mm-hmm. You
But-
go up to any of the old cities like Machu Picchu and those
Mhm.
areas?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember when those missionaries were killed down there in Ecuador or not. Nate Saint and them. Yeah, a very good friend of Rachel, that's Nate's sister. And she's still down there. She came back to the States, I guess, about, 4 years ago was the last time I seen her, and she was still down there then. But she's living with the people that killed her brother. And well, in fact, I don't know how it works. I guess God lets it work that way, but the person that killed her brother, Nate, he accepted the Lord, and he started going to church, and he started preaching. And when Nate Saint and them moved into Ecuador, well, half of their people went on down river. Well, this one man went down there to tell them what Nate Saint was brought to them, and they killed him. The same way that he killed Nate Saint. And Rachel said the man that killed him done the same thing. He began to preach, and they settled that place, and he went on down, and he was killed the same way. So, I mean, there's a lot of people don't believe, but I think if they knew the whole story and put it all together, it'd tie together real good.
Then the killings weren't politically motivated. They weren't.
No, it's just like these Indians here. Somebody come out here, but down there they had the freedom to go ahead and kill them. I mean, that's their law.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back home I got me a home up here in Perkins. And I've been doing this ever since.
What made you decide to run for tribal chairman?
Well, when I came home from Paraguay, the Indian people had just begun to try to do for themselves. And our people, the Iowa tribe, when I took over the tribe, all the records they had was a pasteboard box under Solomon Kent's bed. And that was the records of the Iowa tribe. And some of the old people asked me if I would, we'd been a missionary down there all this time, and they asked me if I would be the chairman. So when I took over, I got grants, I hired people to write proposals and things, and we got grants, and rented our first office in Shawnee. Then moved up here and bought this land, bought the land for the building in Perkins there where the smoke shop is. We bought it and put it in trust. And now we're doing real good now.
How much land does the tribe own now?
We don't own, but just, I guess probably around 40 acres.
Mhm.
We didn't own that much. We've been accumulated since I took over buying it. In fact, we're trying to deal for 20 more acres down close to our border out here
Mhm.
towards Shawnee.
Mhm.
But we run on the budget now. I think we got a $72,000 budget we run on. When I first took over, we just barely getting $2,000 to run our business on.
Hmm.
So we're doing pretty good so far. I've got some good people working for me. Real dedicated people.
Mhm. Well, do you have any questions?
I don't believe so. No.
Anything we haven't covered that?
I don't think so. A lot of things that just keep coming back to my mind. My memories just, I guess, just erased them out and then sitting here talking, that come back in where I've been.
Franklin was your brother, Mr. Murray?
Yeah.
Franklin Murray was your brother?
No, that's my uncle.
Uncle.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Wallace is Franklin's his son.
Okay.
See?
I interviewed Mr. Murray for a curriculum guide I was working on at the Potawatomi tribe about, I guess it was about 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave us a real good interview. Interesting to just sit down and talk to him.
Yeah, Franklin was my uncle, and then that's Kate Lincoln. She's my aunt, and I'm pretty sure if you go down and talk to her,
Yeah. Did you go down tomorrow morning, I think?
Well, I'll see. I'll
Okay.
check with Francis and see
Okay.
if they can spare me. I'm sure they can.
Well, sir, thank you.
well,